equals it was a simple kitchen, the kind you would expect in any suburban home, a blend of warm yellow walls and oak cabinets that held the signs of life, family photos, mismatched magnets, and a slight graying from years of steam and warmth. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sweetness of cinnamon rolls that were baking in the oven. As I stood at the counter, kneading the dough, the texture soft yet firm beneath my palms, I was lost in thoughts while the sun poured through the window, illuminating the space with a gentle glow. Morning light always had a way of making everything look more hopeful than it actually was. I sighed, trying to shake off the nagging worries that had begun to collect like dust in the corners of my mind. My thoughts raced back to what had transpired just a day before, how lives could alter in a matter of moments. Clara. Can you come here, please? My mother's voice called from the living room, breaking through the delicate fragrance of cinnamon and freshly brewed coffee. I washed my hands, the water slapping against my skin, before setting down the dough and moving toward the voice. The house was quieter than usual, just the soft tick of the wall clock marking the time against the stillness. When I reached the living room, I found my mother seated on the worn-out couch, her face tightened with concern. Her silver hair shimmered in the sunlight that streamed through the sheer curtains, casting an almost ethereal glow around her. "What is it, Mom?" I asked, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear as I scanned the room, taking in the scattered knitting supplies and unopened mail. "It's your brother," she said, lifting her gaze to meet mine, her green eyes reflecting worry. "He called this morning." My heart dropped. Nathan had moved out last year, desperate to break free from our family's control. He was always the one to test boundaries, to find the edge of what he could get away with. "What did he say?" I felt my palms grow clammy as I leaned against the doorframe, focusing on the ticking clock behind her, each second thrumming like a heartbeat. "He got into some trouble," she replied, biting her lip as her hands twisted together nervously in her lap. "What kind of trouble?" I pressed, the worry growing deep within me. I had long feared that this would happen. Nathan had been spiraling down a path that had frightened me, drawn deeper into a world I could barely comprehend. He didn't say much, just that he needs help. "Clara, I don't want you getting involved." "Mom, he is my brother. I can't just ignore him. What if he needs me?" I could feel the stubborn resolve beginning to rise within me. She looked away, eyes filled with an unspoken understanding, as if she knew that no matter what she said, I would go to him. "He's in a bad place, Clara. He doesn't understand how dangerous his lifestyle is." "Then I will help him understand," I stated firmly, my heart racing as my mind turned, calculating the risks and possibilities. "I can't leave him alone to deal with this." "Clara, please," she pleaded softly, panic lacing her words. "You cannot save him. You do not have that kind of power." I felt my heart constrict. "I think I know a thing or two about saving people, Mom," I replied, my voice clipped. "And no matter how far Nathan has fallen, he is still my brother." I turned sharply, exiting the room, not wanting to hear another word of her disbelief. I grabbed my keys from the small side table by the door, the sound of metal clinking together clamoring in the silence. Before I knew it, I was outside, the cool air hitting my face and grounding me against the swirling whirlwind of emotions. I stepped onto the driveway, squinting at the soft glow of the morning sun, the world before me bright yet strangely unsettled. My car waited, a trusted old sedan, its faded blue color standing as a testament to our years together. Sliding into the worn leather seat, I could still smell the lingering hints of pine air freshener. As I turned the key in the ignition, the engine revved to life with a familiar rumble that echoed my own tumultuous heart. I couldn't help but think of the last time Nathan had come to me looking for help. I gripped the steering wheel tightly as the memories surfaced. His reckless laughter, the bright gleam in his eye when he had that look of mischief, how he had roped me into his adventures without even asking. "You're going to get into trouble, you know," I had warned him, standing outside the old diner, steam rising from the gutters in the chilled autumn air. "It's just a little fun. What's the harm?" He had grinned, pulling me along. "I just want to live a little." Of course, that living had escalated into something darker. My heart sank, knowing whatever hole he had dug for himself this time was likely deeper than the last. The roads of Lakewood unfurled before me, paved like memories, each turn flickering like shuttered images in my mind. I navigated through familiar neighborhoods, passing the small houses that glimmered under the sun, which felt like it was mocking me. I reached the edge of the town, just shy of the dingy part where Nathan had taken up with a crowd I could never understand. I parked in the gravel lot outside a dilapidated building that had once been a bar, paint peeling, broken glass lining the entrance. A chill trickled down my spine, but I inhaled deeply, my resolve hardening. I didn't know what awaited me inside, but I was not about to shy away from my brother. "Hey, Clara, what are you doing here?" The voice was gruff, booming through the haze of cigarette smoke and cheap booze. I turned towards the entrance, my gut tightening as I saw Nathan standing by a flickering neon sign, his hair longer since the last time I had seen him, unkempt and wild, his clothes hanging loose on him like he was wearing someone else's skin. I came to see you, I managed to say, forcing the words past the lump in my throat. We need to talk. Nathan snorted, a short, derisive laugh. Talk? Since when do we talk, sis? His eyes sparkled with a hint of defiance, and I could almost feel the layers of hurt wrapping around my heart. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, wearing a cocky smirk that made my blood boil. I'm doing fine, better than you are anyway. You're not fine, Nathan. You're in trouble, and I know it, I pressed, stepping closer as I glanced around at the squalor of the bar, noticing a few shady figures at the corner table, eyes slipping toward us. You need help. Help. His laugh echoed harshly around us, the kind that could slice through the tension around us. Look around, Clara. Who here needs help? He gestured broadly, but his words fell flat on me, smothered by my worry. You're not this person, Nathan. You know you're better than this. My heart raced, pounding louder than both our voices combined. You're throwing your life away. No one asked you to save me, Clara. He shot back, the harshness of his words cutting deeper than I wanted to admit. You think you can just waltz in here and fix everything like you always do? It doesn't work that way. He abruptly turned, grabbing a bottle off the ledge, raising it to his lips. You don't understand. Then help me understand. I almost shouted as desperation clutched at my throat, the anger bubbling beneath the surface ready to spill over. It's not too late for you. Just tell me what this trouble is and we can figure it out. Together. Together. He mocked, spinning back to face me, eyes narrowed. You don't know who I am anymore. I'm not Nathan, the sweet little boy you grew up with. I've seen things, done things that you couldn't even begin to comprehend. My heart sank and I swallowed hard, tearing up at the distance that had grown between us. I still believe in you, I whispered, the weight of my devastation hanging heavy in the air. You're still my brother. For a moment, Nathan paused, uncertainty flickering across his face, the bravado slipping just a fraction. But before I could seize the opportunity to reach him, he shook his head, that hardened mask falling back into place. You don't understand what true freedom is, sis. You're just afraid of the darkness. I'm starting to like it here. He turned away again, dismissing me as I fought to contain the swirl of heartbreak and frustration. You could like it too, just let it go. I stood there frozen, feeling every word he spoke echoing in the pit of my stomach, twisting daggers. I wanted to scream, to shake him until he realized the mess he was stumbling into, but the fire in his eyes was a barrier I could not penetrate. With each beat of my heart, the truth settled even deeper. He was lost to me, and I could not stand by and watch him fall apart. I know about the deal, I said quietly, searching his gaze, hoping for a flicker of recognition, of fear. That is why I am here. Mom is worried about you. I am worried about you. His laughter rang once more, this time devoid of warmth. What did Mom say? That I should come crawling back home? That I should become the naive little boy she thinks I am? I am not doing that. I don't want you crawling back, I asserted, trying to keep my voice steady, forcing him to look at me, really look at me. But you cannot stay here, Nathan. You have no idea how dangerous these people are. But he leaned back against the bar as if that would shield him from my words, arms crossed tighter over his chest. Believe me, Clara, I know a lot more than you think. I felt the temperature in my soul drop at the implications of his words. You are talking about danger like it is a game. You do not know what you are mixing in with, Nathan? You need to leave, he said bluntly, waving me off like a bad smell. Go back to your perfect life. I don't need you here. My heart shattered further, each piece falling silently around us. I can't just leave you like this. Desperation filled my voice, trailing off into the stale air of the bar. I won't. Nathan turned his back to me fully. There wasn't anything more I could say or do at this moment. You are dead to me, Clara, he muttered, his back rigid, the words sharp enough to draw blood. Those words hit me harder than any physical blow ever could. I staggered back, the ache blooming within my chest like a cruel, merciless flower, the pieces of my brother slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. As I stared at his back, something dredged deep inside me, a well of pain and anger and vengeance stirring against the injustice of the state he had fallen into. I stepped back, the stagnation of his rejection hanging like a heavy fog between us. You might not want to listen now, Nathan, but I will not forget. I will come for you, I whispered. And I won't stop until I pull you back from whatever darkness you've chosen. Through the haze of the bar, people began to turn back to their conversations, laughter following me as I stepped back out into the dreary daylight. I looked back once more over my shoulder, desperately clinging to the last remnants of hope. But when I saw him, the brother I had always known, now a shell of himself lost in his choices, I knew my resolve was shifting into something much darker. A plan was brewing in the depths of my mind, filled with shadows and shades I never thought I would have to conjure. I drove away, the weight of despair pooling in my stomach, but beneath it lay an ember of a fiery determination to claim back my brother from whatever grip had taken him. But I would need time, cunning, and perhaps a taste of that very darkness. He had embraced the air in my small apartment, felt thick with tension as I paced back and forth, my thoughts spinning like a tornado. The sun had begun to set outside, casting long shadows across the worn wooden floor, and I could hardly see anything clearly. All I could think about was the way Ben Parker had smiled at me last week, confidently leaning against the bar at Mulligan's, as if he hadn't shattered my life just a few months ago. Just the sight of his face made my blood boil. "Why did you have to do it?" I muttered to myself, gripping the edge of my kitchen table hard enough for my knuckles to go white. "Was it not enough for you to just walk away?" With every word, the anger seeped deeper into my bones. I could almost hear his laughter ringing in my ears, that arrogant chuckle that always riled me. He probably thought he'd gotten away clean, but he had no idea. I had been planning. Underestimating the power of a shattered heart could be the biggest mistake of his life. I flopped onto the couch, my mind zeroing in on the plan I had been meticulously crafting since the day he left me. "If only he knew what was coming," I whispered, letting a cruel smile creep across my face. The thrill of revenge coursed through my veins, invigorating me. "I will show him the depths of regret," I promised myself, recalling how his betrayal had crushed me. The feeling of betrayal was sharp and stung like a fresh wound with every thought of him, and I needed to heal that wound with the salve of revenge. I needed a hook, something that would draw him back into my orbit. I reached for my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I landed on Ashley. She was my sister-in-arms for this mission. "She always has the best ideas," I murmured, anticipating her reaction. I hit the call button, tapping my fingers rhythmically against the table while waiting for her to pick up. "Clara, I was just thinking about you. What's up?" Ashley's voice was lively, full of energy, the complete opposite of my current mood. "Ash," I sighed, the weight of my plan ready to be unleashed. "I need your help." "It's about Ben." "Ben?" she echoed, a hint of mischief lighting her tone. "Oh, it's about to get interesting, isn't it?" "It might get a little complicated," I warned, my heart racing. "But I swear it will be worth it. I want him to feel what I felt when he walked away from me." "'Kay, I'm all in. Hit me with your brilliant plan." I could hear her smile as she spoke, her excitement contagious. "All right, hear me out. I want to organize a gathering, something casual but concentrated with the right people. I want to be in the spotlight. I want to see him, to draw him back into my life," I explained, imagining the evening as I spoke. "But not just that, it has to be a huge event, something that shakes him to the core." "I love it already," Ashley exclaimed, her voice brimming with encouragement. "And who will be invited? I assume we still want the cool kids?" "Of course. But I need you to make sure that he hears about it," I continued, pacing again, the rhythm coaxing my thoughts into sharper focus. "I want him to believe that I have moved on." "Let me guess, you want to flaunt a Mr. New in front of everyone?" she asked, teasingly. I nodded, my resolve strengthening. "Exactly, but I need you to help me find someone who can play that role. A handsome distraction, a guy who isn't afraid to get a little theatrical." "You're a genius." "You know exactly what you want," Ashley cheered, and I could almost see her nodding with approval. "How soon are we doing this?" "Soon. The sooner, the better. I know Ben will hear about it quickly enough. He loves to be in the center of attention. And when he sees me with someone else, it will kill him. Let's make sure we do this right. Leave it to me." I could feel the flutter of excitement building deep within me as we outlined the details. The vision grew clearer. The lights, the laughter, the atmosphere filled with a sense of validation, crisp laughter echoing, and all I had to do was wait for my moment. After hanging up the phone, the edges of my excitement began to dull as I thought about the reality of what lay ahead. What if he does not care? What if he's moved on completely? I asked myself, shaking my head to rid my mind of the doubt. I could not allow it to stifle my plan. As the sun sank behind the horizon, the night enfolded me in its embrace. My apartment felt both comforting and constricting, the familiar walls closing in around me. I looked around at the disarray of my life reflected in the scattered magazines and dishes in the sink. This was a far cry from the life I had envisioned just a year ago when Ben was by my side. I looked towards the mirror above my fireplace and caught my reflection. My eyes were fierce, but the sadness behind them was still evident. I had once been so confident, lighting up a room with my smile, but now I resembled a patchwork of lost hope stitched together with anger. "This ends," I declared to myself, feeling a surge of determination course through me. "I will take control of my life again." A sudden ring from my phone startled me from my thoughts. It was Ashley texting me the names of a few guys she thought could be suitable for my scheme. "Incredible," I murmured to myself, reading through the list. Most names rang a bell. They were all people I had crossed paths with at some point or another. Then one stood out to me, Dylan Parker. No, he wasn't related to Ben, but they shared the same last name, and he was one of those guys who had always hung around the outskirts of our friend group. Tall, dark hair, safe smile, and a style that made every girl take a second glance. Above all, he was charming in the way that made it easy for him to blend into any circle. "Dylan it is," I whispered, letting a breath of exhilaration escape. With a few quick taps, I shot Ashley a text, asking her to reach out. The next few days flew by in a whirlwind of planning and preparations. With Ashley on my side, we had created an elaborate strategy to draw Ben into the web I was weaving. The invitations we sent out looked flashy enough to catch his eye, and day by day, it became harder for me to stave off my anticipation. Clara, you're going to look stunning. Ashley gushed as we rifled through my closet for the perfect outfit. It felt strange to dress for a night that held so much conflict, but I also wanted to harness the thrill, a chance to reclaim my power from the hands of a man who had left me feeling so small. This dress will do the trick, I said, gripping a shimmering midnight blue number. It will remind him of just what he lost. I twirled in front of the mirror, catching Ashley's approving nod. The day arrived, a bright sun flashing through my window as if urging me onward. I caught glimpses of hydration and anxiety in my reflection before heading to the venue Mulligan's. I felt a swell of nostalgia from the warm atmosphere, a blend of laughter and soft music that seemed to wrap around me like a security blanket. But the hollow feeling in my stomach was far from comforting. As I stepped inside, the air buzzed with life, colors, and sounds swirling together in a frenetic dance. I spotted Ashley by the bar, a glass of something bubbly in her hand, gesturing wildly as she caught sight of me. There you are, you look absolutely incredible. Thanks, I replied, my heart racing. The place was starting to fill up with familiar faces, their conversations and laughter echoing off the walls. Any sign of Ben yet? Not yet, but he'll come, I know it, Ashley assured me, her eyes sparkling with excitement. My gaze scanned the crowd, recognizing old friends and acquaintances, but I felt still tethered to the moment. I focused on the chatter, the clinking of glasses, and the soothing draw of music. It was all a beautiful distraction, yet I knew what I had come for. Suddenly, as if drawn by a magnet, my pulse quickened as I finally saw him come through the door. Ben. He looked like he had stepped right out of my memories, tall, rugged, with that cocky smile I used to adore. My stomach twisted, but I took a deep breath and summoned the confidence I had built in the weeks leading up to this moment. This was a game, and I was ready to play. Here we go, I whispered, half to myself and half to Ashley, who had slid closer, her eyebrows raised in excitement. Let the show begin, she said, her voice low and conspiratorial. I waved over Dylan, who approached with a casual grin. Hey there, ready to make a grand entrance. He caught the drift of excitement, his smile growing more playful. Absolutely, I said, there was no backing down now. Let's give them a show they will not forget. With that, I linked my arm through Dylan's, feeling a wave of confidence wash over me. My heart raced as we made our way toward the center of the crowd, directly in Ben's line of vision. As I caught his eye, I felt the thrill of anticipation. This was my moment, a chance to rewrite my story. So dance. Dylan asked, pulling me a little closer as the music shifted into something upbeat. I would love that, I responded, all the while keeping Ben in my peripheral. I was aware of him watching, disbelief flickering across his face. Let's show him just how well I am doing. As I danced, I let the rhythm guide me, pouring all my defiance and fire into every movement. I could feel the energy around me mitigate as I caught glimpses of reactions. Whispers and raised eyebrows echoed, the electric atmosphere around us palpable. From time to time, my gaze darted toward Ben, who seemed rooted to the floor, still stunned by the sight of me dancing, flashing lights catching the glitter of my dress every time I twirled, laughing easily between movements and feeling like I truly belonged. With Dylan spinning me around, I could almost forget the pain Ben had caused. Almost. But every twist and turn reminded me about the purpose behind it all. I was there to remind him of everything I had become since he walked away. Who is that guy? I heard someone close to me murmur, and I couldn't help the smirk that slipped onto my face. Just someone I met, I declared, locking eyes with Ben once more, his expression a mix of confusion and jealousy as he tried to gauge the situation. I knew enough about him to understand how unsettling it must have been for him to see me thriving like this, seeing me move on without him. Does he know what he is stepping into? Ashley leaned close, placing her hand on my arm with a mischievous grin. I shrugged, maintaining my focus. He does now. As I finished my thought, Dylan pulled me closer, laughing heartily at something I barely heard, lost in my growing momentum. There was a rhythm that pulsed through me. Each heartbeat was a reminder of what I had endured and what I was finally reclaiming. I grinned as I noticed the way Ben shifted, his gaze openly pinned on me now, and for the first time since he left, I reveled in the power I felt. Let's go for another round. Dylan shouted as we both pushed through our dancing, and this time I really allowed myself to absorb the feel of every beat, every cheer around me, and every single whispered judgment that fell on Ben like drizzling rain. I wasn't just dancing, I was making a clear statement. I was here, alive and vibrant. My laughter resonated through the crowd as I threw every ounce of my spirit into those movements. Each moment was a brushstroke on the canvas of my story, an insistent reminder that I would no longer let anyone dictate my happiness. As the music washed over me, I forgot about the past, about the hurt, and even about Ben. All of my memories and emotions coalesced into a mix of determination and triumph. Everything I had worked for led me to this night. Eventually, when the song faded, I took a breath, my eyes locking onto Ben's one last time. The resolve growing within me radiated outward, flooding the small space separating us. Now it was his turn to feel lost, to truly grasp just how misguided he had been. "Let's grab a drink," Dylan offered, pulling me out of my daydream state, and I nodded, previously tangled in this whirlwind of emotion. "Sure, I could use one after that," I breathed, stealing one last glance at Ben, who still stood, an ocean of confusion swimming across his face. As Dylan led me towards the bar, I felt a rush of victory. I had taken the first steps into reclaiming my heart, and each leg of the journey would be a force to reckon with. This was only the beginning of the perfect plan to take back control. The manipulation was only just starting to deepen, and I was ready to pull on every thread of that intricate weave. The sun was barely starting to sink below the treetops, casting long shadows across the ground as I stood where the forest met the water. My heart raced as I peered into the still surface of Lakewood, the gentle ripples reflecting the vibrant hues of orange and pink from the evening sky. This place used to be my sanctuary, a serene escape from the chaos that had taken hold of my life. But now, it felt different. Each breath I took was laced with an undertone of anticipation mixed with dread. Tonight was the night I would face Jenna and Michael, the very people whose betrayal had shaped my last few years. I could still remember that moment vividly, walking in on them, their laughter echoing through the walls of my once happy home. I had hoped it was a misunderstanding, some bizarre prank. But no, the glances, the touches, it was all too real. As the warmth of the sun slowly faded, I actually felt the cold grip of anger wrapping around my chest. I had misplaced my trust, and now all that was left was the desire for revenge. A soft rustle behind me pulled me from my thoughts. My heart skipped as I turned to see Jenna strolling down the narrow path, her silhouette framed against the backdrop of the sunset. She wore a casual red sundress that accentuated her youthful form, but even that could not hide the underlying tension in her demeanor. I had seen this from her in the emails I had hacked, the conspiratorial whispers she had shared with Michael about how they would eventually have a life together, free from me. She approached, I forced a small smile, disguising the storm brewing within me. "Clara, you actually came," she exclaimed, her voice already laced with a false cheerfulness. "I said I would," I replied in what I hoped was a calm, even tone. Jenna's smile faltered for a split second, but she quickly recovered, flashing me a grin that felt like one of those plastic flowers, brightly colored but brittle and lifeless. "I was worried you might bail. The last few times we hung out, well, things were different." "Yeah, things were different," I said, my heart pounding harder. "Different indeed." I stepped closer, deliberately invading her personal space. "But sometimes different can mean a new beginning." Jenna's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of confusion crossing her face, but before she could respond, I turned my gaze toward the lake again, attempting to gauge which way the wind was blowing. "Where's Michael?" I asked, keeping my tone light but my feelings sharp. "He should be here soon, I swear," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear, a nervous habit that I had become all too familiar with during our friendship. "I texted him an hour ago. He was running a little late from work." The way she said that made me wonder if she was excited or anxious about seeing him again. The thought became knotty in my stomach, but I swallowed it down. "Do you want to go down to the shore and wait? It's really peaceful there." "Sure," I replied, keeping my eyes trained on the water. The light was fading fast, creating shadows along the path as we walked side by side. Every few seconds, I sensed her glancing at me, probably trying to read my emotions. She knew me too well to not notice something was off. We reached a small clearing at the water's edge, and I could hear the gentle lapping of the waves against the rocks. The air smelled of damp earth and water, but beneath that was something else, something rotten. It reminded me of the lies I had lived with, suffocating me little by little. I had made a plan to confront them, aiming to use this moment to remind them of the destruction they had caused in my life, to make them feel the full weight of their actions by exposing their hypocrisy. "So, life has been busy, huh?" Jenna attempted to make small talk, fiddling with the hem of her dress. "I heard you're still at the gallery. That must be interesting?" "Interesting is one way to put it," I replied coolly, holding off on revealing just how thin the veneer of my life had become. "But let's be honest, my life has its ups and downs." I turned to face her. "You know how it goes." Jenna shuffled her feet, and I could see a bead of sweat trickle down her temple, gluing a few strands of hair to her forehead. "Yeah, I guess so," she mumbled, her bravado cracking the longer she stood before me. "And how is your mother? I remember you said she was sick." "Oh, she is." I leaned in slightly, watching her expression. Confusion washed over her features, tinted with concern that felt both genuine and suspicious. "But her condition isn't what we should be discussing right now, is it?" For a moment, the sunset hung heavy around us, the colors blending into a dark canvas that loomed ominously over our conversation. Jenna's eyes darted, searching for the right words, the right way to regain some control in our dialogue. Clara, I know things have been rough between us. Things have been rough? I interrupted, my tone sharp, slicing through her feeble attempts to sugarcoat reality. You act like it's just mild turbulence when you're the reason for the crash landing. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed, a panic of thoughts swirling in her mind. I didn't mean to hurt you, Clara. We never meant for this to happen. I stepped closer, my voice lowered to a whisper laced with venom. You did not mean to hurt me. Have you heard yourself? It's too late for excuses, Jenna. You made a choice. The words dripping from my lips tasted bitter, but I had to let them out. This was the confrontation I had fantasized about. This was my stage, and I had to make it count. I was feeling lost after everything with you and Michael. She trailed off, but I could see the way guilt tethered her to the ground, holding her back from full escape. Lost? I echoed, incredulity mixing with amusement. You're talking about lost while lying next to my boyfriend? I leaned back, arms crossed, ready to hear whatever feeble justification she might muster. Clara, please, she begged, her voice breaking slightly. I cared about you so much. You were my best friend. The panic was evident in her voice. I never meant for it to go that far. We just connected in a way that. I cut her off, fatigue mingling with my anger. You crossed a line, Jenna. You entertained betrayal under the guise of connection. You didn't just lose yourself, you lost us. You took everything we had and peppered it with lies. The last sentence came out inaudibly soft, but still held that biting edge. She searched my face, the uncertainty growing in her hazel eyes. I never thought it would turn like this. I didn't think. Exactly. You didn't think at all. I shot back. You acted on your impulsiveness, and now you want me to aim for forgiveness. Do you even understand the pain you've caused? Jenna's eyes glimmered with unshed tears, the weight of guilt palpable in the tension between us. Clara, stop, I shouted, my voice echoing, startling some birds that had settled on the nearby branches. No more apologies, I need you to listen. I took a few deep breaths, slowing the rise of emotions as I chose my next words carefully. Michael has something to say too. Michael, she repeated, her voice a mix of anxiety and dread. What do you mean? You think this was just going to be a drinks and apologies evening? No, Jenna. I brought him here for a reason, and he needs to know the full impact of his betrayal. I stepped aside, allowing my words to linger in the air, suffocating in purpose. A cool breeze swept through the clearing, tangling our hair and sending chill bumps skittering down my spine. Jenna's nervousness became palpable. Her lips quivered ever so slightly as the reality of my intentions sank in. Clara, you need to understand. Understand what? I challenged, crossing my arms tightly over my chest as if to protect myself from the onslaught of uncertainty washing over me. How could you possibly think you don't owe him this? Just then, the sound of hurried footsteps reached my ears, shattering the tension-filled space we had created. Michael emerged from the trees, his tall figure silhouetted against the fading light. Hey, sorry I'm late, he said casually, but the moment his eyes fell on me, his expression shifted. The nonchalance dropped away like a mask, revealing guilt, confusion, and something darker lurking behind his gaze. Michael, I said, forcing a calmness into my voice that barely contained the storm roiling within. He was the one I wanted to expose most of all. We need to talk. What's going on? He asked, glancing nervously between Jenna and me as if contemplating his escape route. Just the usual catch-up, I replied sweetly, masking the blades hidden behind my words. You know, sharing drinks, laughter, exploring consequences. Clara, this isn't funny, he said, his voice carrying an edge that made something dark churn in my gut. He stepped further into the clearing, closing the distance between us. What do you mean? I motioned between him and Jenna, forcing him to acknowledge the tension hanging in the air. You know exactly what I mean, Michael. My tone of voice dripped with icy precision. You and Jenna have secret conversations, rendezvous behind my back. Wait, what? He cut in, a flash of confusion on his face, but I saw the guilt lurking in his eyes, the truth he couldn't escape. You don't get to play innocent, Michael. I continued, my heart racing at the way his eyebrows furrowed, betraying his panic. You have hurt me deeply, and I want you both to understand what it feels like. What are you talking about? He asked again, this time a tremor creeping into his voice. Play dumb. The love notes, the texts, I found them, Michael. I exclaimed, words bursting forth like fireworks in the night sky, bright and furious. I put two and two together when I saw you two adorning this, whatever you call it, some twisted love affair. Jenna's eyes darted from me to Michael, tangible shock washing over her features, and it made me feel somewhat powerful, finally being the one dishing the truth instead of receiving it. I can't believe this, she whispered, her voice barely reaching my ears. I could feel the energy shifting as the weight of my words hung over them, the realization of their betrayal seeping in like shadows stretching themselves across the darkening land. You think this is some sort of game? I pressed on, relentless. This was my life. Clara, we never meant for you to find out this way, Michael chimed in, attempting to sound earnest but failing miserably. You have to believe. Believe that it was just an accident? Nothing about this was an accident, and you both know it. I shouted, knowing I was reaching a boiling point. I caught you, you thought it was clever, sneaking around behind my back? What do you want from us? Jenna asked, anxiety creeping into her voice as she took a step back, away from me. I want you to feel this moment, I nearly growled, stepping closer, indicating the space I wanted to share with them, the closeness they had once reveled in. I want you to feel the frozen betrayal, the chill of damaged trust. Michael opened his mouth to protest, but was met with a glare from me that froze any chance of innocence he tried to escape with. I want you two to realize the impact of your choices. It won't be easy, and it definitely won't leave you unscathed. I can't handle this, Jenna murmured, turning her back slightly, as if the visuals of the confrontation were something she was running from. Oh, but you will handle it, I said, allowing my voice to drop, letting it linger in the air heavily. Because tomorrow morning I am sending your secret messages to everyone in Lakewood, completing the gossip circuit. What? You wouldn't, Michael interjected, disbelief etched across his face. You can't just do that, can't I? I asked, tilting my head to the side, a smirk forming on my lips. Oh, I can. I can reconstruct who you are in this town, turn the cherry blossoms into blackened branches that will forever remind you of what you lost. Jenna seemed to pale at my words, and for a brief moment I saw her resolve cracking under the weight of fear. Clara, please don't. We can fix this. I never wanted it to go so far, she implored, desperation spilling from her voice. I could care less for your pleas, I said, a sense of empowerment surging through me like a tidal wave. This is just the beginning, a prelude to what happens when trust is shattered. The water lapped at the shore with increasing intensity, whipping up foam and spray that mirrored the tumult of emotions swirling between us. Michael stepped forward, desperation flickering in his eyes. This is full of hatred, Clara. You're better than this. You're not a monster. Monster? I echoed, hearing the disbelief in his voice. You've made me one by taking what was mine. You both have. I held my ground, unwilling to back down. I might be mad now, but wait until I have the world behind me. Clara, please? Jenna's pleas fell flat, her mask of defiance crumbling as fear seized her completely. The moon's glow pierced through the clouds, illuminating the rocks beneath our feet, casting an ethereal light across the water. It seemed a perfect backdrop for my moment of triumph, but I left any flicker of satisfaction behind as my lashed out emotions tightened like a vice around my chest. I will give you time to say your goodbyes, wrap up whatever twisted relationship this was, I stated coldly, watching as pain vied for control on both their faces. But mark my words, you will both feel the consequences of your actions. A tense silence enveloped the air, the dusk settling over us like a heavy blanket, and as I turned to leave, I felt a mix of adrenaline and satisfaction coursing through my veins. I had laid the groundwork for revenge, and I would make sure they learned every lesson I had to teach. This was not just about pain, it was about reclamation, about taking back what had been stolen from me. As I walked away, the sound of my own footsteps echoed, resonating ominously through the trees, and I felt a strange sense of power guiding my steps. I would rise from the ashes of this betrayal. I would become unstoppable. I knew that I was getting close to the plan I had so carefully concocted in my mind. Each moment brought me closer to the moment I had been waiting for, and yet, as I stared down at the meticulously folded letter in my hands, a flutter of anxiety rocked me. This letter wasn't just paper and ink, it represented everything I had prepared for. Standing in my tiny kitchen, the pale morning light streaming through the window, painting the walls in soft gold hues, I felt the weight of the world pressing on my shoulders, but I also felt something else stirring within me, a sense of purpose, a sense of righting the wrongs done to me. I glanced over at my reflection in the window, the outline of my own face looking back, and I thought about how much had changed since I had decided to no longer be a victim. I took a deep breath, gathering my composure as I tucked the letter safely into my pocket. The faint sound of the clock ticking in the background made every second feel defined, absolutely crucial and urgent. Clara, I whispered to myself as I took a moment to gather my courage. After everything, I was ready to reclaim my narrative, to finally put into action what had been simmering within me since they had taken everything from me. I remembered the past, the betrayal that had shattered my heart, the lies that had wrapped around my life like heavy chains. I would not be broken by them anymore, and I had long ago accepted that this path I had chosen was the only one that made sense. New beginnings require bold steps, I reminded myself as I walked out of my small house, my heart racing, anticipation tingling in my fingertips. The air outside was crisp, and I felt the slight sting of the cold breeze against my skin. I hugged my jacket tightly around me, stepping away from the safe cocoon of my home and into the broader world, the world that had cheerfully ignored my pain while I endured their betrayal. I could almost hear the echoes of laughter and camaraderie all around me, but I remained focused, tracing my steps toward the coffee shop where Emily worked. It was where I had first met her, and where the tendrils of our friendship had been born. Little did I know that she was also a key player in my revenge plot. The walk to the cafe was actually kind of peaceful, each crunch of the gravel beneath my feet grounding me, reminding me that I was alive and very much present. I had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in my head, but knowing that the conversation I was about to have would change everything made me hyper aware of my surroundings. A car rumbled by, sending a gust of wind that tousled my hair, fluttering against my cheeks. I paused momentarily, closing my eyes and letting the breeze wash over me, inhaling deeply to capture the scent of pine mingled with the faint aroma of freshly baked goods wafting from the cafe just ahead. As I pushed open the door to Brews and Bites, the warmth enveloped me instantly. The soft hum of conversation mingled with the clinking of cups and the whoosh of the coffee machine. I scanned the room, quickly spotting Emily, perched behind the counter, her dark hair pulled back into a messy bun, her smile radiating familiarity. I felt a pang of affection. She had been my support system, my confidant, and the perfect distraction on days when everything felt too heavy to bear. Clara, she called out, her voice bright against the background noise. You made it. I was starting to think you were going to ghost me. Never, I replied, allowing a smile to break through my nerves as I made my way over to her. I wouldn't miss this. I hopped up on a stool, glancing around to make sure no one else was listening. I hope you're ready for today because it's pretty big. Emily raised an eyebrow, her face registering curiosity. Big? You're not going to tell me you're getting married or something, are you? She teased, her smile turning mischievous, and for a second I envied her ability to joke when my heart felt like it was beating an erratic rhythm. No, nothing like that, I said, shaking my head vigorously, the humor in her voice momentarily lifting some weight off my shoulders. I just need your help with something serious, something that might change things for me. Her smile faded as she leaned forward, attention peaked. Clara, you're not scaring me, are you? She straightened, and the lightheartedness dissipated. You seem a little intense. Believe me, I know how this sounds, I began, choosing my words carefully. I glanced around the shop to ensure we were alone, and after spotting a couple of customers lost in their own conversations, I nodded to myself. It's about Ryan and Angela. She kind of froze at the mention of their names, and I could see her processing the information. You mean your ex and his new? Her voice trailed off, but I could see the fire igniting in her dark eyes. What about them? I have a plan, I said, letting it linger in the air like a confession. What kind of plan? She responded, tapping her fingers on the counter, her excitement evident yet edged with concern. I took a deep breath, pulling the letter from my pocket and setting it on the counter, the parchment curling slightly at the edges. I want to invite them to a gathering at my house. I want them to see what they lost. Emily's eyes widened, surprise zipped through her features before a smile spread across her face. Oh, this is going to be good. It gets better, I continued, my heart racing as I felt momentum picking up. I want us to set a trap for them. I don't just want to show them what they've lost, I want them to feel it. Holding grudges doesn't sound like you, Clara. There was concern lacing Emily's voice now, and I could see her attempting to mediate my fervor. Are you sure you really want to go through with this? It could blow up in your face. But whoa, I insisted, my own voice cracking with intense conviction. This isn't just about revenge, this is about reclaiming my life. They took everything away from me, Emily, my trust, my heart, and I can't just let it slide. I want them to remember the person they pushed aside. She leaned back slightly, regarding me carefully. What do you expect to happen when you confront them? Will it bring you any peace? Peace, I echoed, the word tasting foreign on my tongue. Is that what you think I want? I want justice. I want recognition for who I was and who I've become. I want to show them that their betrayal wasn't a death sentence, it was a wake up call. Emily's gaze flickered, and she nodded slowly, as if trying to align herself with my passion. All right, I'll help, but we need to be strategic. How do you want to lure them in? I'll tell them it's a casual get together, I replied, feeling confidence swell within me. We can feed them some delicious food, pour some drinks, and I'll let them think they're welcome back in my life. They won't see it coming. Emily smirked, a glint of excitement dancing in her eyes. I love it. You want to cater to them in the most delightful way until they have no reason to suspect what is actually going on. I nodded fervently, my heart racing with plans and possibilities. Exactly. They will be drawn in, completely unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. And happens next will be the turn of the tides. And what do you want me to do? She asked, her tone turning serious once more. A question lingered in her voice, a hint of trepidation. Just be my wingwoman, my partner in crime, I replied, and the sincerity behind my words seemed to melt any remaining hesitation in her stance. Help me create the perfect ambience, prepare the food, and play your part to keep the scene flowing smoothly. All right, Clara, I'm in. Let's do this, she said, a firm nod punctuating her promise. Her voice exuded confidence, and I felt warmth course through me, the kind of warmth that only comes when you know you have someone who has your back. With our plans solidified, we worked seamlessly to brainstorm ideas for the evening. We envisioned the food, plates of mouthwatering hors d'oeuvres, that perfect blend of flavors that would seduce their sense of smell before they even stepped foot into my home. Emily took charge of the drinks, her expertise in mixology shining through as she rattled off cocktail recipes, each one more tantalizing than the last. Cranberry mojitos and sunset spritzers, they will love it. And for food, let's whip up that creamy spinach artichoke dip. We can throw in a surprise dessert with mini cheesecakes that scream indulgence. The beautiful chaos of planning wrapped around us like a warm blanket. I could feel hope intermingling with my revenge, nourishing the embers of my long buried ambition. A week flew by in an exhilarating blur. I was back to cooking, decorating, and breathing life into my home again. Lush greenery adorned my dining table, candles flickered with a warm glow, and the smell of food wafted through my house like a siren's call. But as the day approached, anxiety started to creep in again. I found myself standing in front of the mirror, adjusting my blouse for what felt like the 100th time. I needed to look the part. Poised, beautiful, confident, but deep down, a storm rumbled in the backdrop, a fear that threatened to bury me alive. What if they didn't show? What if they shrugged it off? I inhaled deeply, caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty. Clara, I muttered to myself, gripping the edge of the sink. You deserve this. I willed myself to breathe, to fight through the doubts. So many years of being overshadowed by their choices had taught me one thing: I could no longer let their decisions dictate my life, my happiness, or my worth. I exhaled, letting the memories of darkness drift away, building a wall around my fragile heart as every second counted down to the moment of truth. When the doorbell rang that evening, butterflies danced in my stomach like tiny acrobats flipping with carefree joy, yet the weight of anticipation pressed heavily against my chest. I shot Emily a look as she stood by my side, her face alight with excitement. She gave me a thumbs up, and in that fleeting moment, everything else faded away. Showtime, I whispered, placing my hand over the doorknob, ready to face the storm that awaited me on the other side, not as Clara who had been wronged, but as Clara ready to be healed. I opened the door wide, and there they stood, Ryan with his casual smile, an old charm flickering beneath the surface, and Angela as radiant as the sun, her laughter twinkling like a sound I had long forgotten but also loathed. Their eyes landed on me, surprised but drawn in by the warmth of my welcome. Clara, it's so good to see you, Ryan exclaimed, his voice smooth yet insincere, making me want to cringe. Thanks, Ryan, come on in, both of you. I stepped aside, ushering them into my space with an easy smile plastered across my face. As they stepped in, I saw their confidence flicker, but I quickly covered any sign of weakness with a bright laugh. I hope you're both ready to enjoy an unforgettable evening. I have some special surprises planned. Their expressions shifted, but I felt triumph pulsating through me. This was just the beginning. I steeled myself for the oncoming confrontation, but also felt a rush of exhilaration as the night unfolded. Whatever storm had gathered, I was ready to dance in the rain.